This is workshop number 2. It's entitled Breaking Control Dramas. And again, my name is Stein. And this is, as we went through in the first workshop, understanding the difference between negative and positive, control versus release. Now we're going to be focusing on the 4 control dramas, how we learn them, why we use them. We already talked about why we use control dramas. It's to take energy from other people. If you have to control somebody, you're taking their energy. Okay, so now we're going to get into the details about control dramas. Okay, they're all about energy. We just mentioned that. Learned, and they become dependencies. So we learn these control dramas mostly in this life, or in our experiences in this life. And they become dependencies because we haven't learned how to draw energy from the higher source. So we've become reliant on them to sustain our life force, or our any level of balance. We've tried to rely on these in manifestation. Okay, it exists in nearly every relationship where 2 entities do not see eye to eye. Well, guess that. You know that harmonization and squared, if you don't see eye to eye, you can't harmonize. And if you're not harmonizing, then you're competing on some level. Okay, control dramas become codependencies over time, and we saw that with the chakra chart, how the codependencies occur when you are not balanced within yourself and using control dramas or your different chakras, they become codependencies. Any participation in control dramas will pull you towards the negative polarity. Okay, and ultimately most people think they're operating over here. They desire to operate over here. But anytime they operate in a control drama, it pulls them through the neutral zone. And that's what people don't often understand. Okay, let's talk about the relationship between the control dramas. We talked about the 4 of them. There they are. So we have the Intimidator. Okay, and its counterpart is a poor me. Again, there are only 4 control dramas. But they're infinite complexities. And we'll talk about how easy it can be to see a control drama and how difficult it can be to see a control drama, depending on how familiar you are with them. All right, the other 2 are Interrogator and Aloof. Okay. All right, and also any of these control dramas can be used in a passive or aggressive manner. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Let's start with the Intimidator. Intimidator is somebody, I mean, it's pretty obvious what an intimidator is, but you can imagine that it includes verbal or physical abuse, gestures, glares, body language. They can all be used to intimidate another person. So obviously somebody that's yelling, screaming, or arguing is trying to intimidate. But somebody can frown. Okay, that's a passive aggressive. That's somebody trying to intimidate somebody by facial expression. Okay, it's not as obvious sometimes as somebody screaming and yelling and swearing or whatever else they might be doing. Physical gestures. How many times have you known somebody that made a quick move or made an aggressive move to put you out off guard? Okay, very common. Maybe more for men than women, but it happens. Okay, so the Intimidator, taking energy by putting other people off balance, using control, using manipulation of a physical or aggressive fashion. Okay, the poor me. I mean, that's, most people understand what that means. Somebody that is always depressed, always whines about their life, never happy, nothing ever good happens in their life. Always has an ailment, has to talk about it all the time to make themselves feel comfortable. Again, trying to draw energy from other people. All right, now the reason these are paired is because an intimidator, somebody that's very aggressive and yelling all the time, often makes people cry. Okay, or feel less about themselves. Feel depressed, right. And so, in somebody who's whining all the time, who says, oh, my life's so bad, this happened, what happens? Oftentimes somebody say, shut up already. Okay, so they become the intimidator because they're triggered by the poor me. Okay, and how many, we all know people that are chronic, and there are different levels of these, but they're chronic poor me's where all they do all day is talk about how terrible their life is. And, people are trying to give them advice, okay, and sometimes more forcefully than others. Okay, like, do this already. Okay, intimidator. Crying, complaining, whining, need to express their pain and frustration. Interrogator is pretty obvious. Somebody who's asking questions to reveal something personal. Okay, we're going to show how we grew up with these. All right, and aloof is somebody who doesn't like to answer questions. So somebody asks questions all the time causes somebody to clam up. And somebody that clams up will trigger somebody to say, well, what's wrong? Is there something I can get you? Okay? All right, now, again, they can be triggered into this. This person didn't necessarily want to take this person's energy by this person being aloof, but it happens. So whoever wins the control drama takes the energy. Okay, and it's all about energy. People don't know they're playing control dramas. They don't know they're doing it because they're trying to take energy, but that's what they're all about. They feel better when they take the energy. The other people feel depleted. And so whoever wins the argument goes away feeling refreshed, confident, usually. The person that loses it feels depleted. Okay, there's such a thing as voluntary control dramas and involuntary control dramas. Voluntary control dramas are the ones that you're doing that you don't usually know about, but you're doing specifically to take energy. Lying, deception for self-interest, self-empowerment, and greed. All right, people are using these deliberately even though they don't know it. So that's why it's voluntary. They could stop using them at any time. Okay, but they're using them for an agenda. Again, you got to remember that people don't know they're using control dramas. So when you see somebody using control drama, you say, okay, yeah, I see their agenda. I see that they're trying to take energy. They're trying to win a money or anything else by using the control drama. But they don't know it, and they could stop. An involuntary control drama is used by somebody in a position of authority. Parents, okay? You have a responsibility for your children. So you are put in a position of authority, and if you have not taught your children from birth how to live on this side, eventually you're going to have to use some form of control. And it can come as threats to induce fear. Okay? So that's an involuntary one because until you teach otherwise, you're going to have to rely on these. Now these happen on every level of civilization. Everything from families to corporations to governments. Okay, for instance, if somebody is not acting responsible of their own energy, in the universe is naturally, automatically puts in a control factor to manage that person. Okay, which is why we have prisons. These are people that aren't responsible for their own energy. They're not taking responsibility, so a control factor is put into place to manage it for them. Okay? Employees. Sometimes an employee has the ability to do his job without a manager. If they don't, a manager has to be in place. Control factors. Okay, this is a natural harmony of the universe. If you cannot manage your own energy, something will be put in place to manage it for you. Okay, so again, households, if you haven't taught your children how to do this, you're going to have to use control, which is why we have some difficulty maintaining one side of this polarity chart. Which is why some people may wonder how come they're on this side if they have children that don't mind and they haven't taught them better ways to live, then they're getting pulled negative every time they have to scold them.